Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well, as I always say. And in this video, we're going to go to Australia. Well, it's a guy from New Zealand who had the experience in northern Australia. So, pull up a stump and yeah, let's go to Australia. Thank you for watching. This one time, I went fishing with a friend from New Zealand. It was my first time night fishing with a boat at this big lake. We're both pretty excited to possibly, hopefully, catch a huge catfish, so we bring our weed and liquor to pass the time. At around nightfall, we get to a suitably deep bluff and tie our boat off. We catch nothing. In the middle of catching nothing and complaining about it, we both start telling each other all of the spooky stuff that's happened to us before. Mostly just basic stuff like, oh, I've seen weird lights in the woods and the sky before, and he saw a giant eel in a lake in the high mountains of New Zealand, and just things like that. It starts getting later, and we get more and more intoxicated. He kinda quiets up, and now says that he's going to tell me something weird, and that I should just forget about it later. And I'm thinking, oh, please don't tell me that you killed somebody. He tells me that when he lived in Australia for 4 years, he was in a bad way. He was doing hard drugs, being around the very wrong people, he was getting arrested all the time, etc. He hits rock bottom and has a breakdown. At this point, he decided that he had to get sober. He decided to do this by going to a place in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in northern Australia. He said he was tired of everything, and at that point just wanted to start new. He drives out into the bush, and then into the true desert. He parks his car on this hill that's overlooking the desert, near a few lone trees and some shrubs. He said there were some mountains off in the distance. Aside from that, there was nothing, only an empty expanse of sand as far as can be seen. He decided that it was far enough away. He made a campfire. While gathering what little snacks he could, it dawned on him how desolate it really is, how far away he really was. He said that it was cold during the nights, but blistering hot during the day. No protection from the wind during the day or night. By the second night, a fine layer of sand had already began to cover everything in his car, getting in through only a few cracked windows. He brushes it away from the steering wheel and dash. Today, he wanted to catch some food and not really rely solely on his cache of cashews, jerky, and trail mix. According to topographical maps, there's a stream flowing down the far side of those mountains. He leaves camp and proceeds to drive into the desert. He finally gets to where the stream is. It's mostly dry, but it has deeper rocky parts that seem to hold water year-round. At the first deep pool he cast into, there's cave drawings of ancient battles between gods, of tall figures and huge serpents. There's a real sense of piety and sacredness to this place. He catches 2 Australian bass on lures and a small catfish on a handline that he left out. It's not much, but it'll have to do. He heads back across the desert, kicking up a cloud of sand that quickly dissipates behind him. 4 days have passed, and no matter how much food or water is drank, the feeling of being unsatisfied never leaves, constantly sweating from withdrawals, and the heat. No matter how cold or how hot it is, there isn't a moment of comfort. The days blur into one another when all you do is move from your sleeping bag to your car to pass the time. A week in, and my friend is really feeling the effects of everything. He says no matter how busy he stayed, he could not keep his mind off his withdrawals, or keep his mind stable anymore. He feels compelled to sit under the tallest tree in his chosen grove while watching the sunrise. He goes there, and he sits in that position all day, watching the sunset, and now he realizes that he did a little better today, despite getting sunburnt. He's pleased with himself in this weird way. A week and a half into his forced sobriety/spiritual quest, he's reaching the breaking point. He has no concept of day and night, just heat and cold. His time is divided between sleeping and just sitting under this tree, watching nothing diligently. He sees signs of life that he hasn't seen before. During midday, he notices groups of birds periodically flying away from the mountains. Not a single kind either. Small finches, blackbirds, beautiful songbirds, and even stately storks and herons make their way over his head and out of sight. Night falls with no sounds that day. Even the bugs silence themselves, seemingly to witness this New Zealander's test of will. Tonight he feels more aware of his body and perception. He realizes that he is more than sunburned than he has ever been. How tired and stiff he is, how dirty he is, and how feeble that he feels. Nearly 2 weeks had passed, although he wouldn't know this until later. His tree and the horizon line surrounding him were all in the world that he could see and interact with. Sand began to pile around his edges, almost like the land was sucking him in. He jokes to himself, "I must make the worst-looking sphinx right now." He actually laughs out loud. He realizes that he can perceive sounds again, and how silent it is outside of his own head. It's physically feeling terrible and mentally better than he has in a long time. A little bit more, a little bit longer. Something's not done yet. He thanks God that it's ending soon. The next day, though, was different. He woke late and missed the sunrise. There's clouds in the sky for the first time. They resemble a landscape reflected into the sky. He can feel electricity in the air, but no rain or lightning. The clouds leave as soon as they arrived. Shadows become long. The feeling of overwhelming sacredness returns. Sitting at attention now as if waiting to be debriefed by God himself. There's no chill anymore. There's no heat, no wind. In that day's final moments, the air itself looked clear like it had been opaque before and was finally scrubbed. As the sun set on the horizon waiting to go down, it seemed to have left a thin piece blacked out. A long, thin shadow stretches out from that patch. This New Zealander becomes aware of his heartbeat for the first time in days. "It's over? Is it over?" he says to himself out loud. Someone inside him broke down or was finally mended. He stands up on shaky legs. He gets the worst pins and needles sensation ever from standing up so fast. As he is glowing in his triumph, the sacred feeling is back stronger than he could have ever imagined. It's so strong that he almost sits down again out of respect. That long shadow is now even longer in the setting sun, and now it's all he can draw his eyes to look at. An exceptionally tall figure, walking as if through water, appears on the horizon line. He said that there was no dread, no fear, no sense of wrongness or that uncanny valley feeling, only an air of holiness. He thinks he should leave. He starts packing up his camping supplies and gear. He realizes that not eating and staring at the sun for a few days isn't ideal for evasive maneuvers. Now a feeling of immense shame overcomes him. He rethinks what he's doing. How can he leave now? What would be the point of it all if he can't see it through to the end? Am I really afraid of Withdrawal Man now? After everything, I'm still afraid? It can't be. He decides to walk to his tree and watch until it's over. He stands at attention and stares directly at it this time. Not a husk reanimated or a spirit, nothing outwardly malevolent or benevolent. The horizon looks like it's following it now. It seems to be coming closer, but at the same time pulling the ground to it. It remains part of the horizon as it nears. He can make it out a little better now. A tall man, totally wrapped in light furs and loose fabrics. He has weird proportions. Elbows in the wrong place. Knees and neck are all wrong on an anatomy chart. He's carrying a cloth bag and what he described as those hollow gourds dudes have in samurai movies to carry water. Everything somehow feels more intense, now raw and open. He begins to cry. He knows he can't watch now, something's telling him to go. The weirdest feeling comes over him. He described it as like when you feel something you could have been, but you weren't. Or even when you feel something that could have been, but didn't happen. It feels like meeting a beautiful woman and getting to know each other, becoming friends for a day, and then never seeing her again. A feeling of what could have been. So many missed opportunities in the past, so many more missed opportunities in the future. Endless possible paths that you could have taken and will take. Endless paths that will remain untraveled. He's crying now, but not from sadness, from finality. It feels like he's finished something he likes, but because of that, he can't do it anymore. As he drives away, mentally broken, he sees that tall, lanky god thing standing under his tree. After this, he finishes the story, and all I can hear is water lapping at the sides of our aluminum boat. I don't really have anything to say back to him. We make small talk on our way back in the morning, but I can't help but thinking, did he meet like an aboriginal god or an aboriginal spirit? I don't know. So, what did you think of that story? I really enjoyed it myself. It really kind of had a cool vibe to it, if that makes any sense. But let me know what you thought down in the comments. And if you like what I do, then please consider liking and subscribing. And if you feel like it, I have a PayPal and a Patreon that you can donate to or become a patron at in the description below. So, have you had any similar experiences to that? Do you have any experiences at all? You can send them to the email down below as well. So, thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a good week.